Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's French Open men's finals catch up,
Sensational Alcaraz defends his title from 3 championship points down.
we recap and react to the 5-hour, 29-minute epic,
and give you our highlights from the last 2 weeks of the men's draw in Paris.
Kim, Chris, today is the 8th of June, and we are here to catch up on the men's final of the French Open at Tennis Weekly HQ, brought to you by Property Hub Invest. And we can now breathe, guys. We are coming off the back of a truly epic match between Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner, the two top players in the world. An incredible final in Roland-Garros. We're going to be getting stuck into it, giving our fan perspective on a historic match, a record-breaking match. We're also going to be looking at all the other results, collector set, a little sneak peek at the grass, and we're also going to do a little bit more reaction to the fallout of the Gauff Sabalenka final, because there are a few comments from Sabalenka that caught the eye of a lot of tennis fans, and not in a good way, but more on that in a bit. Our Roland-Garros coverage is brought to you by Property Hub Invest.
If you're looking to build a successful property portfolio without the stress of going it alone, Property Hub Invest could be exactly what you need.
With over 13 years of experience and trusted by the Sunday Times as weekly property columnists, the team behind Property Hub Invest have helped thousands of investors build hands-off, high-performing portfolios.
They source buy-to-let opportunities you won't find anywhere else, complete with exclusive investor discounts, then guide you through every step so you can invest with confidence and grow your wealth the smart way.
So if you're serious about property, head to propertyhub.net/start to take your first step.
That's propertyhub.net/start.
The link is in the description.
How are we all doing after the most incredible final between two prodigal talents on the tennis court?
My nervous system is shot, Joel.
I have a glass of wine, Spanish, to celebrate and to calm the nerves down, because that was intense. And we weren't even on the court or in the arena. It was just intense.
I was just standing up. I had to get up off my sofa. I was so nervous because I was actually nervous for a different reason, because I thought I was actually going to be right with my pretty bold call on the semi-finals prediction episode that I said I thought Sinner was going to win in 3, and it was very much looking like that was going to be the case.
3 match points. I mean, unbelievable. I can't really fathom how close these tennis matches are that go on so long. The fact that one shot, a couple of inches, and everything would be completely different. And that sort of comeback, I think, it just reminds me, of when we saw, and I think I didn't know what was going to happen in the same way, where Nadal and Federer, 2008, 2 sets went one way, 2 sets went the other. And when he got broken back, I thought, oh, this is going to be an absolute carbon copy of that match. But I mean, it was the contest that we needed after so many straightforward finals recently for the men's side.
So many times players come back, don't they, to get to that 5th set, and then it just doesn't quite, they can't go all the way. But I mean, Carlos Alcaraz, he has a ridiculous record now in 5th sets, 13-1. He's only ever lost one five-set match. He's never lost a Grand Slam final. And I mean, this is his hardest Grand Slam final to date, I suppose, apart from maybe the Djokovic Wimbledon, that their first final 2 years ago. It sort of reminded me a little bit of that, where you thought he was down and out. He came back to turn it on its head. And I mean, I don't really have words. It was just such a stunning encounter. I'm so pleased. And I mean, Sinner will be, gutted to have not taken those 3 championship points, but I have 100% faith that he will win this tournament one day.
Yeah, I think so too. It just felt like Carlos Alcaraz as a player has that extra level of magic that he can bring. I think the level of Sinner generally is higher, but I think those moments when he went into God mode to get the break back, also in that tie break going 7-0 up, I mean, it was tennis, genuinely tennis from another planet. It was hold your breath and just have it taken away, because I don't think I've seen him play points like that in succession, quite like that, to go ahead, because Jannik Sinner didn't really let up at any point. It was just that Alcaraz, he dipped in, he dipped out, and when he peaked, it was something else.
It did feel that, yeah, Sinner was the most consistent player throughout. And when Alcaraz was playing his top tennis, he just, he had that extra edge, like we saw in that final, champions tiebreak. I mean, that was dominant. He just didn't really put a foot wrong. And could he went up another gear, even though he'd already gone up a gear
What
to
gear were
save
we in,
those
Kim? Are we in
championship
6th gear,
points.
7th?
Oh, I don't know how many gears he's got. I mean, is there even more to come from him? Although he's got this like ridiculous 5-set record, this was actually the first time he'd had to come from 2 sets down. So he's still having to break new territory, even so early on in his young career. He's achieved so much and broken records left, right, and center, but he's still had to, break his own little kind of milestone, ticking off the box of 2 sets behind and coming back. Oh, I mean, I don't really know where to start because, I mean, let's start at, the beginning of the match. So the opening exchanges, the opening game was 12 minutes of Sinner to hold serve. That kind of set the tone for what has now become the longest Roland-Garros final in history at 5 hours and 29 minutes. But then at one point, Sinner was kind of 2 sets up and you thought, oh, actually, it started out quite close and it's sort of going one way. At that point, did you think, oh, I think Sinner's going to potentially get this done quite easily? We're going to be, recording our podcast much earlier than we envisaged.
I think personally for me, I thought Sinner, was playing a great level of tennis that Alcaraz, wasn't matching with. But again, with Carlos Alcaraz, you could just never count him out. And I think what's so incredible about him is the belief that he has that he can beat Jannik Sinner regardless of the situation he finds himself in. And even in that 5th set, in that championship tiebreak, it felt like Sinner was going for the percentage tennis because, it was a tight moment. Perhaps fatigue had a little bit of a factor in it for Sinner. But Carlos Alcaraz, Chris, as you said, just sort of went out and he grasped it. He really grasped the moment. And it makes me think a quality that Carlos Alcaraz has that maybe no other tennis player on the men's circuit has that enables him to win these Grand Slam finals is he is so clutch in those moments where you need it most, whether it's in a tiebreak at the end of a really long tennis match, 5 hours plus, or it's championship point down. He really feeds off of that energy. So even though in that 3rd set, I was kind of like, Jannik Sinner's got this in the bag. He's playing well. He's playing confident. He got his tactics spot on. You can never count out Carlos Alcaraz because I don't ever think he doubts himself that he can win, even when he was in uncharted territory today, coming back from 2 sets to love down.
I agree. I think he does just have that. I always call it like a factory reset button. It's like
it's something you can't coach.
No, you can't. Like he's able to just continue
Innate.
on without having to necessarily think about the fact that he is going down in that way. I think sometimes that leads to a lack of urgency in the early points of matches.
It's like,
because
don't worry, I'll just do this the hard way.
it's kind of like when you know that you can kind of take a test again because you can do a reset. He's almost like, you know what, I'll get to this in set 3 or something like that. But that's something where even when he is in those scenarios, what I think is so impressive and was so impressive in this match is that he did really rely on his second serve. At the end of that 5th set, his first serve was not landing and he had to produce those sort of absolute sort of highlights reel shots to get through. And I think that's probably where he's the most where's the most depth in his game, where he's able to rely on all the different parts of it. We had a drive volley off a drop shot retrieval from Jannik Sinner. We had some phenomenal gets, like almost like a slice squash shot that he did whilst he was sliding. And it's like this whole arsenal of incredible shots he has. It's almost like selecting which one and when to use them is the bigger challenge than it is actually for him to kind of win easily. Because I think he has this sort of mental block, a bit like when he won the US Open, which was, you know what, I can win this the hard way. Which for Carlos Alcaraz fans, I think probably they'd like him to win a lot quicker.
Yeah, I mean, Carlos Alcaraz, for me as a fan who's enjoyed and endured many Rafa Nadal tense finals. This did evoke those finals of old with Djokovic, with Federer, and I think this was an absolute tennis match for the times. I keep harking back to that Wimbledon poster. They were so insightful, putting them both on the poster
Very
all those
early,
years ago.
weren't they?
And they must be thinking, yeah, we called this. And this is, this is their first Grand Slam final. This has set the bar. If should they face again, later this year, next year, we're going to be expecting this over and over and over again. How does Sinner regroup from this? Do you think this is going to haunt him the next time he steps on court in a Grand Slam final with Alcaraz? Because he's lost 5 in a row now to Alcaraz. And he's not just lost this match. He had chances to win 3 championship points in a row. How do you think he's going to fare kind of mentally when he next steps on court with Alcaraz, do you think?
Oh, that's a fascinating question. I think he's a very composed, player on the court, and he's got someone in Darren Cahill who I think will keep him focused. But having said that, there's no doubt that there's going to be, I think, some scar tissue from a result like this, given the magnitude of the match. The fact that both players, went in undefeated in a Grand Slam final. The fact that Sinner was so close, you could really sense that, I feel, due to the camera close-ups of Jannik Sinner's mum. It was just
she was crying. She was in tears.
Yes. It was excruciatingly emotional at times. So, I have no doubt that Jannik Sinner is going to bounce back. I do think he is playing some of the best tennis, but maybe lacks that X factor that Alcaraz can bring.
God factor,
you can't even,
I feel like,
you can't even coach. It's like Jannik Sinner, technically, I think is a, from the back of the court anyway, better tennis player than Alcaraz. It technically in terms of his shots, but the shot making and the brilliance of Alcaraz just cannot be determined, and that is the unknown factor, I think, that helps kind of Alcaraz get over the line. But certainly I think Sinner can be proud of his performance. I just think he'll maybe be obviously a little bit disappointed he wasn't able to kind of nip it in the bud earlier on, because we do know Alcaraz just gets stronger and stronger as matches progress. And maybe it was, try and be part of the game plan to kind of close it off as soon as possible, which he so nearly did.
Yeah, I mean, he almost got back into it though as well. So I think that's also something we should say as testament to Sinner's performance, is that even when he didn't, even when he did lose that set and there was that disappointment, he did then, he then got himself back into it. He gave himself more chances to potentially win it. So that is a champion's mentality in so many ways. But when it comes to the rivalry, I think, how does this now match up in terms of matches? We've talked about some references of matches past. Is this, and surely it must be, one of the best matches that we've ever seen at Grand Slam level, especially at Grand Slam final?
Oh, without a doubt. I think, Federer Nadal 2008 Wimbledon, for me, still edges it. In the darkness, the rain delays, it just had that extra level of drama and excitement.
No one could see the ball.
The quality of this match, and just they're both so young, like the promise that it holds for the next generation of tennis, I think, the next decade. If we're going to be treated to this 3 times a year, how lucky are we? We've just had the big 3 and now we're getting this. As a tennis fan, that's fantastic. But it's got to be right up there.
Yeah, I think quality wise, I think it actually surpasses Federer and Nadal in that Wimbledon final. The level that these two are bringing to the court is phenomenal. They're really challenging each other. I think you could tell from the first set that it was so close, given the number of breakpoint opportunities each were forcing on the opponent's serve. It just showed how good of their return games are. No free points really whatsoever. And they're just very, very evenly matched. And I think they're going to really spur each other on to play tennis maybe the other players are not going to be able to reach. And it might just be, who Grand Slam finals to come. Is it going to be Sinner or is it going to be Alcaraz? But I think quality-wise, this is up there as maybe, if not the highest quality Grand Slam final from set 1 to set 5
that you've ever seen.
In my lifetime of watching matches, I would say so. The only one maybe that comes close, I would say, is the Australian Open final between Rafa and Djokovic.
2012.
Yes.
Yeah, the chairs
final, when they were just so knackered.
6 hours, I think, wasn't it? It's slightly longer.
Yeah.
One fun stat I thought, this match well surpassed the previous longest Roland-Garros final, which was 4 hours and 42 minutes. That was Mats Wilander winning over Guillermo Vilas back in 1982. That scoreline, though, was 1-6, 7-6, 6-love, 6-4, which begs the question, what on earth were they doing for that scoreline to be 4 hours, 42 minutes?
Was juice not a thing potentially then? I don't know. Was it just they just kept playing forever? That doesn't feel like it would be that long. I think some of the other stats out there, I didn't realize. Carlos Alcaraz has done this before. He's won a slam from match point down as well. That was something that I had to look up, and that was
not in the final.
Not
though.
in the final.
No.
That was against Jannik Sinner again in the quarterfinal of the US Open 2022. He won his first slam. So, I mean, maybe
there are these moments building up. It's not just this final, is it? There's a few pain points that the Sinner's going to, possibly be aware of
maybe
now.
He remembered that at that moment, that you can't count out Alcaraz. It's never over until it's over. And I thought that was something that was quite interesting, because I always remember, obviously, the Djokovic Federer one that was in a final, and that was 40-15 on Federer's serve. So that was particularly
2019.
Yeah, that was a tough one for me. I'm not over that. I don't think he is either. But in terms of this match, I also think that there is something that you have to say, is that Jannik Sinner, to play at this level from where he was in Rome, obviously having that time off as well because he was banned for anti-doping offences. But I mean, for some people, they'll be breathing a big sigh of relief that Sinner didn't win this, given the fact that they thought the ban should have been longer. Also, the fact that there was that sort of backdating that allowed him to play a warm-up tournament as well. Do we think that it is actually important, not just for Carlos Alcaraz, but also for the sport, that potentially the optics of this don't look like someone got away with it and then was able to consecutively play 3 Grand Slams after testing positive twice?
I think that some people will have thought, should Sinner be even playing this final? He was able to negotiate a very nice deal through his lawyers and agents and what have you, where he didn't miss a slam, and it hasn't really affected him. And actually having 3 months off has meant he's really fit and healthy and ready to rumble at this tournament. And I think that some people will be thinking the right person has won because there will be question marks over Jannik Sinner. Does everyone believe his story? Does everyone think that the deal that he struck was the morally right thing to have happened compared to how other players have been treated? So, we're not sort of making a judgment here, but there are people who will think that and be kind of glad in that sense that Alcaraz has won, who, there are no question marks in his camp. Although what I wanted to ask you both, what you thought was, Jannik Sinner, having had that time off, having only played one warm-up tournament, when push came to shove, that final set, champions tiebreak, Alcaraz was the one who was able to up it, and at 3 championship points down, up it again. Having kind of come through a standard clay season, be a bit more battle hard and fought his way through the draw much more than Sinner has, did that help him, having not, been out of action for kind of 3 months without competition?
It might help him going into Wimbledon, is what I think, because he did get sick at Wimbledon last year. He played a lot of tennis in the lead up to that. So I think it's always good to have a little bit of time off, I think, because I think tennis is, it's a bit of a hamster wheel, as Casper Ruud said during this tournament. So I don't think it actually will have been at too much of a detriment. And sometimes it gives you the time to work on and change things that you don't have time to work on otherwise. And I feel like his movement has improved so significantly. I think that was the biggest change in this matchup for me, was just how good he was at moving. I think in terms of coming back, and I just think it's so impressive, the fact that he started at this level. I think for Alcaraz, there were questions about injury. I think there was something that we talked about, was that Jannik Sinner was banned at the time. Carlos Alcaraz was skipping tournaments injured. Was this an opportunity for someone else to come in? And now the last 6 Grand Slams have been won by the 2 of them. They've shared them. So I think it just shows that when you are that level of quality, no matter what you've been through, whether you've had a tough draw, an easy draw, you do have that tennis you can play, and you are able to tap into that at the big moments. But would it have been helpful if there was a bit more of a challenge for Jannik Sinner along the way, do you think?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think, he played...
Djokovic, that was a good match.
Djokovic was a challenge.
That was very tense, yeah.
What more challenge could you have?
I think, physicality wise, I think, Alcaraz maybe has the advantage there, but Sinner's certainly stuck with him. I think the feeling, at the moment is that Sinner's level of tennis needs to be able to get the job done in 3 or 4 sets. Try and not go to 5 with Carlos Alcaraz, because as soon as that happens, Carlos Alcaraz almost becomes like a completely different entity. And I think we started to see, even at the start of that 5th set, it looked like potentially Sinner was, cramping. I think he was going for the pickle juice to help him kind of get through. And to his credit, it did help. He was able to stay with Alcaraz, but Alcaraz just becomes a different person in that 5th set.
It does make me think a little bit as well of, as you say, like the nature of how they won. And we did talk about this with Sabalenka yesterday as well, is that she's got to get it done in 2. And I think that the longer it goes on, it's very similar in terms of that matchup. The longer it goes on.
US Open, Sinner was 2 sets to 1 up, lost in 5. He has a problem, it feels, at Grand Slams maybe, of closing it out against Carlos Alcaraz. I mean, I guess one question is there something Jannik Sinner could have done differently to close this match? I know he was very, very close, and we're talking about points here or there, but do you feel like there is anything that he can do to make sure that he can get over the finish line quicker against Carlos Alcaraz, so that he doesn't start building that momentum and building that belief that he can win this?
I don't think he can. I think it comes from Carlos's side of the court. I think in those moments, as we've talked about, he taps into something that not many players have, and maybe no other player on the tour has, where it's almost like he's not like Hulk mode, but it's like he's been plugged in, or the batteries have been recharged. He just taps into something else, and it's something that you can't control yourself. I think he controlled everything he could have done, Jannik Sinner, from his side of the court. Potentially his service numbers he might not be thrilled with.
I mean, it was below 60% first serves in.
For the match. It was. He did win a lot of points on his first serve, and actually, kind of in the 5th set, it was about 60%. He won a lot of 80% on his first serve, so it wasn't a huge problem there. But I do think that when that number did drop, which was in that 3rd set, it went down to 50%, and he was only winning 44% of points on his first serve. So that's where you do get a bit tight in those moments. It's such a huge match. It's so huge for him, given the fact that wasn't expecting to be here, I think was something that he also said. So I don't think you can do much more apart from just try and stay calm. He's a pretty level-headed man anyway.
I mean, I think Sinner has, he's never won a match that's gone beyond 3 hours, 50 minutes. He doesn't have a great 5-set record. I believe he would have won this, had it gone to 5 against anyone else. Carlos Alcaraz, like you said, God mode tonight. So I don't think he should be feeling like, I can't get over the finish line any match that's like 4 hours or more. But at some point, he's going to want to kind of get that kind of bogey off his back almost. I mean, he obviously came back
that
against...
feeling, as well as that belief that he can do it. Until you've done it, you don't know that you can.
He's going to be motivated because I feel like Alcaraz is... he's building up this collection of pain points that he's delivering to Sinner. That US Open,
like he's throwing them at a dartboard or something.
Last year, the semi-final,
body blows.
He needs to think, how can he land his own, body blow? I mean, even at the Rome final, losing, a set 6-1 in front of your home fans is not a great, situation to be in either. So certainly I think that is going to fuel him. And I think that's what makes this rivalry so great, is that I think they're going to spur on each other. And I just hope that these moments don't negatively impact the loser like Jannik Sinner. I actually hope, and I think with Jannik Sinner, because Chris, you said he has such a positive approach to the court that I think it's going to spur him on.
So resilient in those big moments. I mean, we've looked at, irrespective of what you think about the nature of the ban that he served or that whole incident, he was able to play through that, win multiple slams, fully compartmentalize that. So I don't think that he will necessarily have that problem, but he did say that he might be kept up at night on thinking about this one. So maybe it's one night and then he'll move on. But I do think he needs
to have that Novak Djokovic mindset of, I thought about it and then I moved on.
I think we all need to do that.
Yeah. I think what we've seen with the big three is that they have these crushing defeats and they come back stronger, and they're able to then enjoy that victory over their, opposition. And it's all the more sweet for it. Yeah, and I think that that's what's going to happen with these two. I think Sinner will come back stronger. He'll win Roland-Garros one day. He's too good a player not to. Do you think, like you said, the last 6 slams have been won by both of them? Are we entering yet another era of dominance where there's just no inroads?
It's already happened, hasn't
else?
it? You blink and it's passed over to the next generation.
Do you think, just on building on that, do you think they have monopolized or there is now like this cartel between the two of them for Grand Slam finals? Or do you think someone has got the capabilities to break that? And if so, who do you think that might be?
You make it sound so ominous, Josh.
Yeah, sorry,
like
I did.
Cartel.
The cartel, the Sincaraz cartel is here to stay.
It's not the deals they're doing; it's the tennis they're playing that's getting them the titles. No, I think it looks like they will be splitting the slams. I think there's always been moments when, for example, a player's had a breakthrough run, or a player hasn't been fit, or hasn't been able to do quite as well. I mean,
yeah. Sorry. You continue. Sorry.
But I would say even despite like the fact he was in such great form, that quarterfinal loss to Medvedev at Wimbledon was quite significant. I think that's not necessarily showing that he had a huge amount of dominance on grass, for example. And I think there are Australian Open defeats for Alcaraz where he hasn't necessarily played his best tennis down under yet. So I think there are slams where someone else might break through. But I think it's going to be very tough to beat Jannik Sinner on a hard court, and I think it's going to be pretty hard to beat Carlos Alcaraz on clay or grass. So I think that's where the split might be.
I think for me, the only player that will, for the rest of the year at least, or going into next year, not for much longer, Djokovic.
Cam Norrie? No, not Cam Norrie.
Djokovic, I think,
Djokovic,
can
sorry.
Throw a spanner in the works, get another slam, get his 25. Other players, though, I'm not convinced. Sinner and Alcaraz, I think, are here
Not
to stay.
Draper, Kim? At Wimbledon?
Well, you thought Draper was reaching the final here, Joel.
Yeah,
so
you did. Never been past the first round.
Yeah, I know. Kim, you're not the first person to mention that to me. But
you went bold.
I mean, Jannik Sinner's record at Wimbledon is not the greatest, and you can, I think, see why in terms of his game. He's not as comfortable at the net, and I think that's obviously a very important part to have on grass. So it will be interesting to see if he's able to improve elements of his game. I will say that I still thought him at the net. He did show some fantastic touches at time. It's not like it's a real glaring weakness, but certainly I think there are maybe opportunities there for someone. I will still back myself. I'll still say like a Jack Draper, maybe to reach a Grand Slam final, but it to me feels like these two are going to be the dominant forces, and it's going to take heroic efforts from everyone else to kind of usurp them.
Yeah, the fans will have to work out what camp they want to be in because it's looking set to be a long-term rivalry. One thing I was impressed with was how Jannik Sinner dealt publicly with the defeat on the court in the interview and the speech that the runners up have to give when they've got their platter for their dining table at home. He didn't really say too much. He was just very giving credit where credit's due to Alcaraz, thanking all the team and organization and everything. But quite a classy response, I thought, given that he will be going through a very emotional moment there.
It was so classy. And I think it just shows again how resilient he's become over this last year. Everything he's been through is that he is able to keep a very level head in those moments, because that's not what we saw yesterday on court. I think we probably forgave what we witnessed from Sabalenka yesterday on court because she was so visibly upset in that moment that she didn't feel like she played her best. But I mean, Jannik Sinner had match points, 3 consecutive match points. He'd played for 5.5 hours. And the first thing he said was still, "Congratulations, you deserve it," to Carlos Alcaraz, which was more than Sabalenka could muster. And then in press, something that happened afterwards. I don't know if you saw this, Kim, but Sabalenka volunteered, not only that she kind of thought that it wasn't a case that, I'll give you the quote so I'm not misquoting. She said, "I don't know. I have the statistics. I think she won the match not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes. If you look from the outside, from kind of easy balls." And then she actually went on to say, after saying it was probably the worst performance she's had in the last 2 months, that if Iga had beaten her the other day, I think she'd come out today and get the win. So she went quite far with these comments about the fact that not only did she not think that she played well, and I have sympathy for that because she did make 70 unforced errors. So I think we all knew she didn't play well. That's a colossal number. But I don't think that you have to kind of go into that detail and say, I think someone who I beat the other day would have beaten the player I played in the final, because it's completely unnecessary. And for me personally, I think it's disrespectful to the player that you've lost to, not in one Grand Slam final. She's lost to her multiple times in Grand Slam finals. So I think taking credit away from someone in that moment, it's not a good look. And I think she could learn something from Jannik Sinner.
Definitely a case of sour grapes, I thought, reading those comments.
I know it's surprising because I always think back to when Sabalenka was caught on a camera backstage slamming her racket after, I think, Chris, we spoke before recording, was that the US Open final?
Yeah, it was the final against Coco 2023.
Against Coco Gauff. And to me, that was like the perfect way of kind of letting out your anger and your frustration. And it was quite interesting because, that was a little backstage peek for the fans. But to go from that to kind of doubling down on your kind of performance and sort of shading your opponent who's ultimately come out with the victory, I think it was disappointing because we've seen Sabalenka, I think, respond to these moments better in the past, and I was hoping she would kind of continue that form up.
She has since gone on to social media though, hasn't she, to kind of correct herself, I would say, and I'm sure that's because there was a bit of outcry and complaints, I'm sure, from the general public. So she has, in her statement on social media, I won't read it all out, listeners, go and have a look, but she did say both things can be true. I didn't play my best and Coco stepped up and played with poise and purpose. She earned that title. Respect. Time to rest, learn, and come back stronger. So, yeah, her PR team have probably said
wrote that for her. It feels like
let's just pop this out there.
Take the phone away from her. Yeah,
calm it down a bit.
That's what one person said, that she committed 70 unforced errors on the court and then a couple more in the press room afterwards.
That's a great way of explaining it.
And it does feel like that, doesn't it? But I mean, Coco, classy as ever in her response to all of this. She said that she thought the way that Aryna was playing the last few weeks, she was the favourite to win, and that she's actually the best player that you could play in that final, being the number one. So she thinks she got the hardest matchup. So I think that's quite interesting in a way of looking at it and saying it would have been tough either way against Iga, but she thinks she would have had a good shot, and she really believed that she could do it no matter what. But she did say that she felt that Aryna was playing so good through this tournament, and she focused on the strengths of Sabalenka and the fact that Sabalenka had played so well in this tournament. And I think it's fine for Coco to focus on that, because she's not going to say, no, Sabalenka did play really badly, because that's not a classy response. But then at the same time, I think you don't necessarily have there's an entitlement around thinking that because you're number one and you are the best player in the world by ranking, that you should therefore be given the final. I don't really like it. And I think that's where hopefully...
Do you think that's where that frustration was born from?
I think it was. Did she play well? No, she didn't. Did she play as well as she had in the tournament? No. But at the same time, you don't have to spell that out in that way. I think you can look at the reasons why you didn't, and she could reflect more on the fact that she did say in press mentally she lost it. And I think if you're able to reflect in that way, then maybe the mentality needs to shift. And that would also mean there'd be a shift in how you'd respond to things after the defeat, during the match. Because we didn't see, Jannik and Alcaraz having big outbursts despite huge disappointments, even when they were playing well and the stress was getting to them. So I think she needs to do some work in that area. And hopefully the statement was written by her, and that she's reached out to Coco Gauff personally to say, I didn't mean anything by that, and everything can be fine and they can move on. But we thought we'd cover it because it's been a big story. And I do think that the way that Jannik responded actually just showed that you can do it in a really, really classy way. And it doesn't have to be, as Kim said, it doesn't be sour grapes, does it?
No, I think Sabalenka might want to quote Roland Keating or go and listen to some of his music, because perhaps, when he said, you say it best when you say nothing at all.
Some people say that about this podcast, Kim, don't they?
Well, let's now look back at the men's tournament. We had the final, the most epic final. It went down to the absolute wire. We thought it was going to be good. We didn't realize it'd be that good. But let's have a look back to the tournament overall. You guys did the women's side of things yesterday, but we've got the men to do today. So best match, I'm going to come to both of you. Let's make this snappy. Joel, best match of the tournament on the men's side.
Well, it's quite obviously got to be Cam Norrie versus Daniil Medvedev. I mean, what a fantastic match that was.
We're getting a lot of Norrie mentions in today.
But yeah, no, seriously, it's got to be the final. Sinner, Alcaraz, unbelievable. Chef's kiss. Long may it continue for the next decade.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, same. But I have to say, second place for me probably is Cameron Norrie, Daniel Medvedev, because that brightened up the first few days of the tournament for me. I thought that was great. Okay, biggest upset, Joel.
I've gone for Francisco Cerundolo because at the start of the clay swing, I thought he was going to do some damage at Roland-Garros, but then he went and lost to Diallo of Canada in straight sets in round one.
Yeah,
How did that come from?
That was a wild
great.
one. That wasn't in the.
I think his brother did better than him.
Maybe his brother played
tournament.
for him in that one. Yeah.
Chris, what about yourself?
I couldn't believe that Bublik beat de Minaur from 2 sets down. I mean, Bublik on clay. I don't know where this came from. And when I was checking the scores, I had to pretty much watch the whole match back to think, how has this happened? Because de Minaur is such a reliable customer. So I was super shocked by that upset.
Well, I've gone for Jakub Mensik losing to Henrique Rocha, who's ranked down sort of 150 odd in the world. I had Mensik on for, I think, a quarterfinal or something.
You're a fan of him, yeah.
You know, budding young player, but can he do it?
2 sets up.
2 sets up as well.
I was at that match. I was really impressed with Rocha in that. I think he's really stepped up. He's got a big game, a lot of promise, and I think we'll see him play a lot more. So that might be one of our ones to watch we're coming to later.
Yeah, and talking of ones to watch, how about the ones that you think have the most room for improvement based on what you've seen over the last fortnight? Joel?
I've got to go with João Fonseca. I just don't think he lives up to all the hype that's around him. And I think that was, for me, plain to see in the match against Jack Draper. I didn't really feel like he knew what he was doing, didn't really have a plan, and I didn't really understand why is everyone so excited about him. I know he's had other matches this season where he has been able to show that, but I certainly think there's room for improvement there. Chris, maybe he's just leaving it for your favourite tournament of the season, the Laver Cup.
Yes, the Laver Cup. I mean,
he's in that.
He is going to be. He's going to be there.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So, well, I'll not watch that, but not because of Fonseca, but because I really don't understand what goes on in the Laver Cup. But I would say maybe we should also take a lesson from Jannik Sinner in our classy responses, and poor 18-year-old Fonseca. I mean, a pretty good result for him, getting a win over Hurkacz. He did make a little run here, so
he made a little run, and he didn't drop a set. Okay, I'll give him that.
Yeah,
but if I'm just taking that match against Draper, as face value, I didn't really see. I didn't see a lot. I wanted to see more. To see more.
If we were taking advice we gave Sabalenka, we'd say that Jack Draper played especially well in that match.
Yes.
On my side, the room for improvement, I think you probably would have to go for, a Taylor Fritz going out in first round. I think that's a state of his season potentially. And I kind of cheated and had 2 here because I thought Zverev looked a bit passive in that loss to Djokovic in some of those later stages. I think he lost sort of like the spark in his eyes. So I think getting that back will be important if he is going to clinch a major. And we don't think that's particularly likely based on the form of the 2 that made the final.
Yeah, I went for Casper Ruud. I mean, I know he's dealing with an injury, so it feels a bit harsh, but I think we all had quite high hopes for our collector set. And
it's personal, is it, Kim?
But also maybe Jack Draper. I know Bublik played like lights out tennis, but I was expecting maybe a bit more competition despite that. I mean, I think Jack's going to have to contend with people playing lights out, and I wanted that little bit more from him in that match.
Yeah,
but,
fair.
Yeah. Okay, what about biggest surprise of the tournament, the men's tournament? Joel?
Alexander Bublik. I just don't know where that level of tennis from him came from against de Minaur and against Jack Draper. I mean, the drop shot, he was... I tweeted this, but he was playing the drop shot like he invented it against Draper. It was inspired, and it caught me by surprise because I just know him as a little bit of a joker. He has matured a little bit over the time, but I sort of just associate him as a player we see in the highlight reels, but not really as a real kind of contender. But maybe this fortnight showed to him that he can be a contender at the latter stages of a Grand Slam.
And it was nice, wasn't it, that he was kind of showing he did care. And I think that sometimes we've
in that ceremony afterwards, he was like emotional. It was like, well, who is this?
Yeah,
what have you done with Alexander Bublik?
It's okay to want to win and enjoy this. Yeah, I like that. My biggest surprise was actually that Novak Djokovic. Wow,
that's a good one. Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
we didn't know what was going on in the lead up to this. Obviously, he did win Geneva, but I also just think seeing the level that he played against Sinner, and Sinner could have beaten Alcaraz in straight sets, it just showed that although generationally he may be being surpassed, I do think, as Kim said, there's a lot of opportunity that he did have in that match, and I think he won't think he can't win another slam. And I think even if he's not back in Paris, I think these two opportunities he has this year are going to be really exciting, seeing how that story develops.
Okay, Chris, very quickly on that, Djokovic at Wimbledon, would he prefer to be in Sinner's half or Alcaraz's half?
It's got to be Sinner, surely, after the Alcaraz defeat previously.
He's lost to Sinner both slams this year, though, in the semi-final.
Well, not this year, though, because I think it was Zverev that took him out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
so
fair enough.
I think that was last year. So maybe Sinner would be someone he'd prefer to see. But Kim, who was your biggest surprise?
Well, it was a bit of a tricky one. I thought the Arthur Fees, Jaume Munar match. I know that was very close, and Fees has an injury. He's got like a stress fracture, which is he's out now for about 4 to 6 weeks. I think he was able to get through that. So the surprise was him getting through that match with that injury, but also Munar doing so well. I thought he's a player that.
He's had a decent clay swing
out in the doldrums, but he's actually had, quite a good run. So great for Mallorcan tennis. But last but not least, one to watch on the grass based on what you've seen from them here.
Well, it's not Feast, is it? If he's out for 6 weeks,
Feast,
say,
he will not be
I'm going to change my answer.
That's a shame because he was playing well. He was playing well. I've gone Ben Shelton. I liked what I saw of Ben Shelton against Carlos Alcaraz in the first set. They played toe to toe with each other. I think he can do better than what he's done before. He got to round 4 of Wimbledon last year, so I'm gonna maybe put him as a surprise quarterfinalist. I think he's playing well at the moment.
Chris?
Well, I've actually put Sinner, despite everything that we've talked about in terms of maybe grass not being his best. I think the serve for me really did show that that's probably the thing he needs the most, and some of the volleys he made as well. I honestly think that I was surprised by how good he is at this stage of coming back from 3 months off and how much he's developed since Rome. So I think physically he's going to be at peak heading into Wimbledon once he's recovered from this obviously epic final.
Yeah, well, I've gone for, I thought Alex Bublik, based on what we've seen here, he's going to be a bit dangerous at Wimbledon if he can keep that form going. Yeah. Don't want to be playing him early on. But also Djokovic. I mean, I know it sounds silly. He's won Wimbledon so many times, but I just feel like he is the one player that could break this cartel up.
The cartel, believes
is in position against everyone else. So I think he might be the one to break that up. Let's see.
Break up the club, could we say instead, maybe? Yeah.
It's the cartel. The Sincaraz cartel.
Yeah.
It's Sincaraz, yeah. Sonne cartel and the cartels.
Before we finish, though, we do have some other results to round up from Roland-Garros. British news. We had a girl in the girls' junior final, Hannah Klugman, the first Briton in almost 50 years to make it to this stage. But she didn't go all the way, sadly. She did lose quite comfortably 2-0 to Lily Tagger of Austria. But we've sort of heard a bit about Hannah Klugman. We know she's a bit of a prospect. So yeah, how pleased are you for British tennis that she's kind of made it to this stage?
Kim, I think you'll love this because she hasn't really played a lot of clay, and she went to the Rafael Nadal Academy in the build-up to do some preparation, and she actually got some advice from Nadal which spurred her on. And do you know what that advice was? She said, Nadal said to Klugman, as soon as you've got the level, everything will come. So just trust it and work hard every day. So obviously worked very well for her, and she's got enormous potential. It's going to be fascinating to see how she kicks on from here.
There are more and more players going to the academy, aren't they? Even for a couple of days. And
are we going, Kim? Come on.
Yeah, when are we going?
I know.
I'll reach out to them.
I need to work on my forehand. I need some of this Rafa inspiration.
There's a Roland-Garros museum there now, so we really should pay it a visit.
We also had Joe Salisbury and Nils Skupski trying to win the French Open final, trying to become Britain's first men's doubles French Open champion since 1933. but sadly, they didn't quite make it. They lost to Granollers and Ceballos in the final in a weird scoreline, actually 6-love, 6-7, 7-5 to Granollers and Ceballos. So quite a shame, but still fantastic. They made it so far, and that bodes well for Britain's Davis Cup hopes
It does
in the
that
future.
they're working now. And also Jasmine Paolini and Sara Irani, they also won the doubles. And so Sara Irani won the mixed and the ladies doubles. So she's becoming a bit of a Sue Shea of Italy in some ways.
Yeah, and nice for Paolini to, make progress on her Rome efforts and success to get something here as well. And then in the wheelchair events, Alfie Hewitt, bit of a mixed bag for him. He lost in the wheelchair singles final to Takito Oda in straight sets, but him and Gordon Reid did win the doubles title over Oda and Stefan Uday in a champions tiebreak. So yeah, mixed fortunes there, but Alfie Hewitt and Gordon Reid winning their 6th straight French Open doubles title there. So fantastic from them both. And we do have one last result to mention, which is our collector set.
Do we have to mention this?
We do,
I
Joel.
think we should, yes.
We do have to mention that you were bageled in collector set. You
I
didn't
was-
get anything right.
Oh, from 6.
Hey, I was channeling my inner Iga Swiatek.
Oh, okay. That's how Sabalenka took her out, yeah?
I mean, me and Chris didn't do an awful lot better. We only got 2 right out of the results, which was I got Sinner and Djokovic right. And I think, Chris, you got Andreeva and Sinner
Yeah,
correct.
so we actually had more resting on that final than we thought then, Kim.
Yes, I know. What relief. But in the end, we had a tie break. We had a couple of people in the running, but we do have an outright winner, which was Jill Dancaster. So fantastic stuff from Jill. She won outright, no need for a tie break in the end because of the result today. So Jill, a Tennis Weekly mug will be on your way soon. So fantastic stuff. And thank you to everyone for taking part in our latest collector set. Jill won with 3 correct answers. So yeah, fantastic stuff. And yeah, Casper Ruud defeating us all, it's fair to say.
Yes.
And we do.
I mean, to be honest, everyone defeated me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which
Spoon of shame.
yeah,
Definitely on you, Joel.
Yeah. Do you know?
It says
I
make
was-
your case. Do we need to, Kim?
I was sort of thinking, oh, if Jannik Sinner does do this in straight sets, that pulls it back a little bit. But I think collector set, the bagel, the damage has been done.
Yeah, the collector set. I also said Alcaraz in 5, and Kim did predict Gauff. So I think
Yeah.
overall, I think that's case closed. But Joel, you can redeem yourself in the grass court season because you're hitting the grass almost immediately. You're moving on from your collector set slam spoon of shame disaster, aren't you?
That is very true indeed. I'm going to be at the WTA 500 event at Queen's, which is very exciting because we have not had that in a long time, perhaps too long, women's event in London in the build-up to Wimbledon. So yeah, I will be there. Hopefully, ladies semi-finals and maybe some days during the week. But I'm looking forward to that. Seeing how Emma Raducanu gets on. Qin Wen is the top seed. Madison Keys. Sadly, Pegula and Osaka dropped out, but I think there's a lot of talent on the show. And I know everyone was watching Alcaraz Sinner today. Chris, I hope you'll be happy because I actually had one eye on Heather Watson because Heather Watson was on double duty today in Queen's qualifying and she pulled through. She's in the main draw.
One of those was almost as epic as the match we saw. I think the first one went 7-5 in the
We're
third.
talking about the wrong match.
We are. Maybe we should do another podcast afterwards. Kim, are you free?
Yep, Heather Watson analysis.
Yes,
I'm here for that. But no, it's we've got a great opportunity, for Emma Raducanu, Katie Boulter in action. Jodie Burrage is there on a wild card, so is Cartal and Fran Jones. So loads of Brits in the draw. And exciting to see WTA back at Queen's Club as the HSBC Championships, I should say. So looking forward to getting into the grass court season proper now that the clay has sadly ended for another year.
And before we wrap up our episode, we just want to give a special shout out to our sponsor for the last fortnight, Property Hub Invest. Big thank you for sponsoring the podcast. Honestly, it helps us put the show together and your support was just, has been absolutely fantastic. So big shout out to Property Hub Invest. But we're going to wrap it up there. That has been our Roland-Garros round by round coverage for the last fortnight of the French Open. I hope you've enjoyed listening to all our coverage here from Tennis Weekly HQ, as well as Chris at Roland-Garros itself. It's like that happened like
a different tournament, isn't it?
It was like a different tournament.
Aryna and I, different time doing our journals. Thank you very much to Aryna as well, and thank you to FFT for having us. And it's been a tournament we've covered from all angles and in all locations.
Yes. And as we move on to the grass court season, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment as we build up to Wimbledon. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favourite podcasting platforms out there.
And if you love what you're hearing, then be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And you can listen back to all of our previous episodes. Our journals hopefully will stand the test of time, because we are hearing from the players, especially Coco Gauff, on her outfits, as well as Tommy Paul and his truck. So they should be a bit of fun, a bit of light relief if you'd like to go back and listen to them. But as always, you can connect with us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Threads. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, because our mailbag will be returning, or if you'd like to give Joel some encouragement ahead of the next collector set, then do drop him an email at tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or visit our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back next Monday for our first catch up of the grass court season. Really looking forward to that. But until then, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Au revoir.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.